The online travel market is currently growing much faster than GDP, and with the highly connected population that we have here, together with a relatively young population, this is a trend that we really see growing over the next few years. Now, if we look at the number of bookings that are coming through OTAs as part of that overall online travel market, here in the Middle East, that exceeds 75%, and that's a huge number. This is invariably starting to lead to questions: what are the values being brought by OTAs? What are the benefits? Are we placing too much reliance on OTAs? And can you really have that unique owner-operator and OTA mutually beneficial relationship? To answer some of those questions, I have with me today the panel Ait Vonk from Expedia, Vice President of Market Management, Alex Lee, Vice President of Revenue Management at Jumeirah, and Rashad Saab, Head of Asset Management at RAK Hospitality. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Perhaps I can direct the first question to you. You know, we're seeing a lot of changes in the demographics of customers. We're seeing travel patterns changing because of security concerns. This is all leading to really complex distribution channels. How is it that, you know, OTAs, Expedia are helping the operators and ultimately the owners in managing those channels?
Yep. Does that work well? Yep. So first of all, thanks for having us here. The way I explain it is I see ourselves as a partner in this industry to take the complexity out. Because you mentioned a couple of axes, I would say, but there's multiple of them. There's the demographics, there's geography, and there's technology. So in technology, ever changing, right? It's going mobile, there's different devices, there's different versions, so somebody needs to take care of it. We do that, we capture that growing demand, which is indeed a growing opportunity, but how do you go after it? So we do that in terms of technology. In terms of geography, there comes also a question of complexity, not just in terms of language, but in terms of payment methods, for example. The way a Brazilian pays is different than the way a Korean wants to pay. So is the kind of complexity that we take care of as well. And that's the way I see ourselves as a partner in helping hoteliers, helping the industry to reach these different pockets of growing demand.
Okay. I mean, Alex, you've obviously been working with OTAs for a number of years. The benefits that you're hearing from Ait, does that resound with you?
Yeah, certainly.
Mine is gone too.
We're gone.
In a world of...
Thank you. Certainly, and definitely most prominently, I would agree with what Ait has said around geography. You know, we recognize, particularly as Jumeirah Group, we're very strong here in the Middle East market, but not necessarily as strong and well-known as some other markets. And geography is a hard thing to master. It's a big world out there. And when we look at our business coming into just our Dubai hotels, there's certain markets which are very strong for our OTA partnerships that we just don't have a presence in as a global sales office or a marketing engine. And if I look at even just our top 20, there's markets like Brazil and Japan which sit in our top 20 for our OTA partnerships but don't appear in our top 20 overall through other channels. So geography and the access and reach to markets that we don't invest in as a brand is certainly one of the key advantages.
Okay. When I speak with owners and when I look at the industry more and more, if you look at airlines, they've been very successful in moving away from, you know, commission to their own websites. I think hotels have probably lagged behind that a little bit. If you look at the percentage going through own hotel websites, it's much less. What is it that's driving that? You know, if you look at your own website, why do you see more going through OTAs than your own website?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily agree we have more going through OTAs than our own website. I think it's very different by market. But certainly the access of the customer to multiple product in multiple locations and that search is going to be a key factor in travel forever.
Yeah.
You know, when I go shopping, sometimes I go into a single brand store, sometimes I go into a department store. When I'm browsing, I want to look at multiple things on the shelf and not just always one brand. Yeah. And that's a key role that the OTAs play in the search process.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the kind of questions that I'm hearing from owners, but Rashad, I'm sure you have other questions in terms of how the relationship best works. What are, I guess, the challenges that you see in that relationship with OTAs?
Well, first of all, I think from an owning company perspective, we see the benefits of OTAs.
Yep.
However, these benefits are coming at a certain cost. And we owners, at one point, they're going to start asking questions about what the operator is doing to... You can't hear? Sorry.
Yeah.
Can you hear now? Okay. So, sorry. I was saying that definitely we see the benefit of OTAs, and but these benefits are coming with a certain cost. It's costing us a lot of money, and we usually rely on operators to, have their own distribution channels pushed forward, and then we, at the end of the day, we see on top of all the fees that we are paying to operators, we have OTAs commissions, we have wholesalers commissions, we have a lot of commissions. At one point, there are going to be a lot of questions that are going to be asked, and moving forward, OTAs are becoming more and more popular. So this is the concern.
And I guess the response there is, the additional value. Obviously, every distribution channel will have an acquisition cost, whether it is direct, your own website, or OTAs. But you touched a little bit on technology before. What are the additional benefits that you see that you're bringing that, I guess, justify that acquisition cost?
Yeah, I think a couple of numbers to put next to that. If you look at the way we go after that ever-growing demand, is of course we invest a lot in marketing to capture that demand. And last year, that was, I think it was 3.4 billion that we invested in marketing just in 1 year. And we invest around 700 to 800 million in technology every year, just to get better, just to tap into that demand. So of course that has a price as well, which I think is our role, the OTA role to play, because not a single individual, not even big chains, can actually make those type of investments. So I think you always need to see that in perspective. Roughly, I would say it takes about 25, or to get a customer to transact on our platform, if you calculate the cost through, it's about $25 to get somebody to the platform. Right?
Okay.
Yep.
And the technology that's being invested in, do you see that coming through, Alex, when you're working with the OTAs?
Yes, and I think the technology investment piece can be broken down into two key components. One is around the sort of back office technology infrastructure, making sure that the channels have real-time access to correct pricing, inventory, availability, and everything that comes around back office, including payment processing. And then there's also a whole technology piece around the front end and actually understanding guest experience. What do customers do when they visit the site in different languages, looking at different points of sale, coming from different source markets? And there's a lot of data out there to be analyzing and evaluating to be able to make decisions, and that takes investment.
And as an owner, Rashid, do you see the transparency there as well, or is that something that, as an owner, you look to see more of?
No, obviously, from the owning company perspective, the transparency is not there. Now, there are deals between the operator and the OTAs, and what we see at the end of the day is one line with the commission that has to be paid. From our perspective, having the OTAs as providing a big portion of our P&L, we would like to have more transparency, and we would like to see more details about how the deals are happening and the operation of the bookings are happening. Yeah. Definitely.
Yep.
Maybe I can ask you to respond, because I know you've just issued a paper kind of around the transparency.
Yeah, so maybe to Alex's point, there's indeed in what Alex called the back office. Mm-hmm. So what we invest in a lot, and we hear that is built on feedback that we get from our partners. So there's about 6,000 partners across the globe, a panel that we work very closely with, and where we test things together. Some things work and we invest more, something doesn't work and we stop it. But there's a lot of investment going into our, what we call our EP, so Expedia Partner Central. It's the interface that the partner uses for basic things, loading rates and inventory, but we're putting a lot of intelligence in that extranet to make actually our partner make make it easier to make investment decisions. So if you want a certain length of stay, you want a certain booking window, you want last minute, all these things, all the data we gather from our platform, we transform that actually in actionable or call to actions for our partner. And then you can make your decisions. Therefore, in terms of commission, when do you do a discount? How is that discount structured? These are all things that we're building into our tools so that you can actually do your revenue management based on the data that we see in our global platform.
Okay. And I guess between the owner-operator, and maybe Alex to answer Rashid's statement earlier, how can that relationship give more transparency? So how can you provide, obviously you work both as an owner and an operator within Jumeirah, but how can you be providing that to the owners?
Well, I think to go back and answer the specific question, I would say that every operator in the business as well as owner would need to recognize that there's obviously a problem if you have too much reliance on any one component in your commercial strategy. So whether it's around distribution, whether it's around market segmentation mix, you have to be able to have a balanced strategy. And having that view on your investment in acquiring customers directly and how much you're spending as a business on that strategy versus how much you're investing on acquiring businesses through third-party channels, and making sure that there is some healthy dialogue in your business, both as an owner and as an operator, to be able to maintain that balance and look at where there's opportunities to move that mix of business around. Mm-hmm. And it's very much depending on the marketplace that you're in and the customers that you're targeting. Because if I was in the UK market, I would probably deploy a slightly different strategy than I do in the Dubai market, because it's more of a domestic market in the UK. And so focusing on where your customers are coming from and what's the most cost-effective way of acquiring those customers to book your brand needs to be a dynamic conversation that the commercial team at both the brand and the property level are having on a continual basis.
Okay. If we can touch maybe on, and you touched on it briefly, but the customer expectation and what the customer wants. We've done a lot of surveys recently and a lot of work with companies like Review Pro, etc., that is showing, if you look at a review index for Dubai, it actually comes out a lot lower than maybe what you'd expect compared to other cities around the world. Now, that's not saying that the hotels aren't as good. Clearly they are. But it's all around customer expectation and customer perception. And obviously value has a part to play in that. Given that, the customer satisfaction is going to be key in driving loyalty when we've got a market of falling ADRs, how are we using the OTAs and all the information that's coming through them to really drive that customer loyalty, to think about how that's feeding back into the hotels?
I guess the first thing I'm going to touch on, and I guess I might touch on it as well, is all about information. Powering the customer with the best information about their purchase possible. Now, when a customer buys with a brand directly, maybe through their voice services, their telephone toll-free network, or through their brand, generally there can be more information provided to the customer at that point of purchase. Now, many of the OTAs out there in the market, Expedia being one of them, are working with brands to make sure that their content is as accurate and fresh and enticing and engaging as possible. And it's a conversation we have continually with the market management teams of many of the large OTAs, some of them on the stage and also in the room, because giving customers the right information to start that engagement with the hotel and that experience from point of booking is critically important, because if there's a mismatch between expectation and reality that's somehow being created by the booking portal that customer is using, that's going to present itself when they arrive at the property, and that's the hands of the owners and the operator to deal with. So content strategy, whether that's through the brand channels directly or through a third party, has got to be critically important.
It is. So about a year ago, or maybe it's 2 years ago already, we developed a content score, which basically every partner can see how good is from 0 to 100 in terms of content, because we saw it was so critical, not only in customer feedback, but in conversion on the marketplace as well. So now actually you can real time see what your content score is. And that might change also, because we always discover new things, test new things. We A/B test constantly in what is good for conversion and for customer experience. And we keep on upgrading these algorithms. And then we flag it to our partner as well. You were 95% content score. Today it's only 80, because we discovered you have a pool, you need a good picture of that pool, your picture is not good enough, for example.
Yeah. And from an owner's perspective, how is the customer satisfaction importance to you? I mean, obviously you're seeing it, but you're probably seeing it, reactively at the end of the stay.
Well, it is very important, and it's becoming more important with time, because we see that the customer satisfaction and the rating system has a big impact on selecting a property and not the other. So we want to make sure that our property is there in the top 10, top 5, or top 3 amongst the competition. It is also the rating system. It is a very good tool to us as asset managers and owners, because we're not very close to the operation. So we have this tool to see what is really happening from an objective angle, from the customers in a very quick manner, and as you said, from all the different products that are in the market, like Review Pro and other softwares, we get to see where we are going wrong, what we're doing right, and it's a very good tool. Now, we would like it to have it. I mean, I would like it to have it a bit more detailed than what it is, but I think this will, with time, should be coming.
Please.
I'd like to add, I'm going to come a bit closer. I see people, sorry. You still hear me, yeah? So we developed, actually, out of that panel of 6,000 properties, one question that always came up in the last years was, how do we prevent bad reviews? Because it has such a big impact, right? Then last year, I think beginning last year, we launched something that's called real-time feedback. And that's basically as soon as you check into your hotel, you get a request from Expedia per email, where you can very quickly, within a couple of seconds, can give feedback to how was the check-in, location of the hotel, and how's the room. There's free text if you want, but not necessary. So basically, in a couple of seconds, you can answer. And that feedback goes directly back to the extranet, what our partners, our hoteliers use. And then they can basically react, right? If the room smells of smoke, for example, you can immediately react, relocate the customer in another room, rather than wait until he checks out and he goes somewhere and puts a bad review, right? It was such an important, that has an enormous uptake, right? We had, within the first months, over 4 million reviews already. Yeah. And our partners are now proactively using that tool to optimize the customer experience.
Sorry, Alison. This is becoming very important to the point that
Can
we're
you
seeing...
speak up a little?
Sorry. We're seeing, for example, for service providers, for hotels, they are linking the fees to the rating, to the online rating. We are like outsourcing housekeeping, for example. We were surprised to see that some of the companies, they link their fees to the rating they have on the cleanliness of the room. Yeah. So this is becoming very important and very reliable, with time, more reliable tool. Yeah. For.
And I think it's a question I was going to ask each of you anyway. There's been a lot of initial talk in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi mainly as well, but also in Qatar and some of the other GCC countries of, should customer feedback ratings form part of the classification system? Should they form more fixed metrics within HMA agreements? What are your thoughts on that?
I'll go first. So rating, you mean in the rank? So it does. It's actually a key component of our ranking on our platforms.
No, I mean in the hotel star classification system.
Then I'll leave you to. Yeah. I'll leave it up to Alex.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of different perspectives on this, and probably every person in the room will have a different opinion on it. My personal opinion is I think there's room for both, because the online classification or online rating piece becomes quite subjective based on cultural and regional bias, and the input of physical product versus service elements to a customer experience. Whereas obviously a traditional star rating scheme is more heavily weighted on the physical product. Yep. And so when a hotel opens and positions itself in a market, there needs to be some sort of starting point for that. And that's where there's a role for that physical star rating piece. Whereas an ongoing operation that has a more balanced piece around service elements, brand, location, can perhaps leverage and use to its advantage more of the online classification.
Yeah. Rashad, is it something you would like to see in
No, I think I
HMOs?
totally agree with
Yeah.
with Alex, and I think it's we're not there yet to link the HMA to the rating. As Alex said, it's still one portion of the business that is actually doing the rating on online channels. But for the future, I heavily see it coming. I see it coming. So in the future, with the better tools, more credibility in the rating system, and more transparency, this will definitely come.
Obviously, in the marketplace now, we've seen an element of consolidation happening this year. Marriott, Starwood, Accor, and Fairmont. Is this something you think can impact relationships that operators will be having with OTAs?
Well, first of all, I think the driver is clear why this is happening. Scale matters to make an impact in this business. I think I see no impact so far. I think we all have our strengths to play.
Yep.
And for us, it's keep taking that complexity out of the industry. I don't see that changing. No.
Okay. Any other views on that?
Well, I think being more consolidation means more bargaining power, and the essence of consolidation is to have more synergies, and definitely this will be on top of the list of synergies that there will be coming in the market. So definitely, I see some change in the market in the next near future with the big consolidation happening in the market. And from owning company perspective as well, I say that we always ask the question to big operators: what is your brand bringing to the table, and what is your online, your website is bringing this month compared to OTAs? And we ask these questions constantly. And we start to see in the market a bit of a change with the big operators pushing more and more business towards their online channels with discounts, providing free services. So the market is shifting towards this direction, which all tells you that there is something that's going to happen.
And I would say I agree with I's point. Scale clearly matters, and it matters to the hotel chains and operators that are involved in some of those consolidations. But I don't see some of these consolidations resulting in major disruption to the industry. I think it will mean different things to the properties that are involved in that consolidation and some of the advantages that come with that scale. But I can't imagine it changing the industry as a whole, particularly not when it comes to this online travel space.
If we look at where Dubai is going, obviously there's a real push to try and get more mid-market hotels, and historically the mid-market hotels have had more reliance on OTAs because they don't have maybe the infrastructure themselves to do a lot of complex distribution management. Given that that is going to be such a key part, and the cost base for mid-market hotels, particularly in this region, is very difficult with high land prices, is this something that you see will have to change the model slightly, or is it very much about building that partnership and making that partnership work for each individual hotel owner and operator?
Yeah, I would say the online platforms, they level the playing field a bit, right? Because everybody can play with quite equal tools on that marketplace. So that in that way, of course, we help independents. Yeah.
And is it, what is the ultimate relationship that you would have with an operator? What is it that drives that partnership that you were talking about earlier?
Yeah. So what I see, the partners with whom we produce most are the ones that we work the closest with, because it is, in the end, it is quite complex, right? And we see that the more closer, the more we meet, actually, the better the production is, because it's a lot about test and learn as well. With a new partner coming on our platform, we don't really know which ones are the levers that work best, so typically we test things out. And then we find after a couple of months, quarters, we find the best setup depending on the market. And that changes as well, it's very dynamic. But I think that's another advantage of an OTA platform is you can play around with it, right? Beyond the contract, there's a lot of levers that you can use to test what's good for your property.
Whether it be a mid-market hotel or just a new entry hotel, some of the advantage of the partnership comes back to what Ait mentioned about earlier, is around the access to the insight and the data. And so whether that's working with Expedia Partner Central or working with the solutions that Booking.com provide, there's so much data there available for a new entrant in the market. You know, even the most sophisticated and expensive automated revenue management systems rely so heavily on historical data. When you're in a fast-changing market like Dubai, or you're a new opening hotel, there's a huge amount of value that can be pulled from the insight that comes from the performance data. So whether that's around booking pace, pricing, positioning, or merchandising opportunities, whether you're a mid-market hotel or a new hotel, you should be leveraging that insight to drive value for that bit for your business, whether that's directly through the OTA channels or across all of your points of sale, because that's kind of part of the value add that you get with your partnership.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously, as an industry, you probably have the most data of pretty much any industry out there. You know what we eat, what we drink, what pillows we like to sleep on. We have passports, everything. Do we really use that data properly? I mean, it's probably a question to Alex and to Rashid. Do you feel you're using that data properly?
Could we be doing more?
Yeah.
Yes. Are we trying very hard in this space? Yes. I mean, we want to have a relationship with our customers, and the main driver of that is through our loyalty program, Jumeirah Sirius. But we want to be able to engage with those customers, those loyal customers, in a way that is meaningful for them, and is not in a way that makes it feel a bit creepy or spooky. You know, we want to be able to be providing them with offers and opportunities to re-engage with our brand in a way that's meaningful and is going to make them feel like they've been recognized as an individual. And so that's where our focus is. Is there more opportunity there for us? Absolutely. And is it one of our ongoing focuses? Definitely. Yeah.
You mentioned early on about the investment you've made in technology. What are some of the next big things you see coming through? I mean, we've heard a bit in the industry about, frictionless transfer of points, etc. What else do you see as some of the next big items?
So I always get that question, but the reality is I don't know, right?
Yep.
But I can tell you a bit more maybe. So I think the key here is, and that's where a partnership with an OTA again comes into play, is there's so much change going on all the time. And we've actually put our company culture as one of test and learn. So we continuously, and it is a couple of tests per day, continuously test new things. And I think that's the only way actually to win in this whole change, is to be ready to go after something and very quickly. So we have organized our market management team, our technology teams in this fashion that we can react very quickly. And in that, we are a partner as well in going after that change.
Okay. Rashid, from your perspective as an owner and asset manager, what would you really like to see developing in the future? How would you like to see the relationships changing? Obviously, it's been historically more of an OTA operator relationship. How would you like to see that developing so you feel that you're getting the benefits as well?
Well, it comes in two folds. I mean, first from a financial return perspective and from investment perspective, I think OTAs are a major part of the business. And OTAs are constantly increasing and taking more market share and providing more and more room nights. So from an owning company perspective, we would like to see a long-term strategy between operator and OTAs. What's the plan for the future? The fees and the commission we are paying to OTAs, with time they are eating from the margins. And from a return on investment perspective, this is becoming heavier and heavier. So we would like to see a long-term strategy, and we would like to see operators and OTAs, coming together and working on a sustainable plan for both. in order for us to be also benefiting from that. Obviously, we would like to have more transparency from owning company perspective, a better, as I said earlier, a better, classification system, a more detailed classification system, and bringing all this together, I think this is how we make a sustainable partnership for the future.
Do you see a future where it is a closer relationship with the owners and not just the operators?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, to the point of commission, so in the last 2 years, we've gone down actually significantly, and we've heard the feedback, and we know that we need to provide a lot more value to all the players in the industry, and that's what we're doing, especially all around data, providing more actionable data. So yes, I think so.
Yeah.
I would definitely say the key is around the transparency on cost of sale distribution, because every customer that's acquired has a cost, even on brand.com, even through the call center, or through an OTA, or through a wholesale channel. And what we struggle with as an industry, not just as a hotel operator, but as an industry, is being able to get to that point of transparency, that end-to-end acquisition cost. And it's something that we're working a lot on at the moment as a brand, but it takes a lot of time and a lot of intensity around the data, because providing that transparency would actually perhaps in some cases give owners more comfort around the strategy and the value of the partnership.
Okay. Gentlemen, I think you've answered all the questions that I had. We were going to open it up to the floor to see if anybody had any questions, either of Ait or Alex or Rashad. I don't know if anybody does, please. Okay.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Thank you. Great panel, great points. My questions are for Sir Alex. With the business mix, distribution-wise, with the Jumeirah Group, how much of it is online and how much of it is still conventional? That's question number one. Number two, what is that one grand strategy you guys are using to optimize your direct conversion? Number three, can I ask more? Do you have a better concession rate with I for the region with Jumeirah? Were you able to, or do you just have the same rate as the rest of the independent hotels in the region?
Okay, so I'll try and answer the questions in reverse order. So question number 3 was around preferred rates with Ait. I don't know, because I don't sit in a room and talk with all the other brands around my rates. I know I feel very comfortable about the commercial agreement I have with Expedia, as well as the other OTAs that we partner with. Question 2 I didn't quite get, so could you just repeat question 2? Conversion rate for direct. I don't think it's wise to quote a specific number on conversion rate direct, because it's very different on the type of hotel that our customer is booking and the market they're coming from. Our goal is to increase a combination of both traffic and conversion to drive more revenue to our hotels, and there are 2 focuses that we spend a lot of time working on. And then the first question was? That's not something we're able to share in this forum, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Other questions? The front?
Thank you. You mentioned the Middle East several times. Obviously, we're here. But could you sort of mention how it differs from other regions that you might be experienced with? I mean, what are some of the characteristics in this market that really has the OTAs perhaps in a better position than others, if that is true? Or if not, what are some of the distinct characteristics of the OTA market in this region?
Shall I take that first and you can perhaps add to it? Okay. I think the first characteristic in the Middle East region for our Middle East hotels with our Middle East customers, the most prominent thing that stands out, and I think everyone in this room probably is aware of it already, is around length of stay. length of stay, and lead time. So our Middle East customers are tending to stay shorter and booking later, but also engaging with us more frequently. And so if I compare that to perhaps other markets like Asia or the Americas, there's a much longer planning cycle, and so therefore there's a different range of booking options that are available to those customers. Yes.
Yeah. Another thing that stands out is, and let's see if you agree, is mobile. Of course, mobile is very relevant everywhere, but in the Middle East especially, and I think it's just the beginning of it. So I think this will be mobile only is maybe a bit exaggerated, but I think that's where we are helping a lot as well, in mobile transactions.
I think the other area that is quite relevant to this region, although we're known as a luxury hotel region, actually the most of our hotels are in that 3-star and below. It's just that people don't necessarily realize it, and a lot of those 1, 2 and 3-star hotels are relatively, can be quite low in quality because they're much older hotels than what you may have across Europe or the US. Those are the hotels that have probably got over 80% use of OTAs. If you're looking at your 5-star hotels, that percentage goes down quite significantly. So the mix of the hotels and also the age in the hotels, and whether you've got standalones, a lot of these are one entity, one hotel for one owner, and often owner operated as well. That's driving that real high percentage of OTA use. Please.
Hello? How does a hotel rank on a website aside from the content and the review score? This is my first question. My second question is how can an upcoming property, a new hotel, increase its ranking swiftly, in a quick way?
Did you get that first question?
I couldn't hear.
First question, how does hotel ranking work aside from hotel content and review score, aside from those two things?
So ranking on the web, the question is how does a hotel rank, or how does that work, right?
Exactly.
Actually, we just published a white paper, I think last week or so, to give some more insights on how that works, and there's 2 main criteria. So one is offer strength, and the other one is quality score. So offer strength is basically value for money. So how good is the offer that you put on the platform? How good is that for our customers? And that is, of course, a combination of reviews, combination of location of the property, the price, is there a discount, is there a promotion? So all these things matter in the offer strength. And the other very important parameter is quality score. So this is how well do you interact with our platform? So do you give the best rates? Is there enough availability on the platform for our customers, for the Expedia customer? That's what we call quality. And how do you interact with that platform over time? So these 2 are the 2 main criteria. Recently we launched also a booster where you can, there's a couple of levers actually where you can work with promotions, or you can use our accelerator, something we launched last year, is where you can boost with a little bit of commission your position in the sort. But that actually, all these levers, they don't matter as long as the first 2 are not 100%. Right? If there's bad pictures, you don't have good content, all the rest doesn't matter. That was the first question.
The second one is an upcoming property, a new property. How does it rise in ranks? Aside from, a new property wouldn't have that much reviews. So
how can a new property really get more?
Boost, exactly.
Yeah, well, it's a very good point, because content and that review matters a lot. So you have to earn that a bit on the platform, and you can always play with some promotions in the beginning to get some visibility and get some traction on the reviews. So that's how it works, is to use some of the levers to get yourself a bit of visibility. We have, for example, we call it media solutions, where you can do some banner kind of merchandising on the side of our website, through which you can get visibility, you can get some more transactions, then you build up your reviews, and that's how you get into the normal machinery of the marketplace.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions before we wrap up? No? Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Thank you, everybody. Apologies for the sound issues that we have. It's quite noisy in here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.